longstanding partner and friend of small farmers of the Federation and administrator of FSA, Mr. Dolcini.
Thank you, Cornelius. Cornelius said that I was limited to 90 minutes this afternoon, so I'll try and make my remarks relatively brief. I want to thank you for that kind introduction, and I'd also like to recognize and thank Dr. Fred Harrison, who many of you know. Fred is the State Executive Director of the Georgia Farm Service Agency operation. We've got about 60 or so offices scattered throughout the state of Georgia, and we had to convince Fred to come out of retirement to take the position. It's a very important position in our agency, and I'm thrilled and honored that Fred has been my host here in South Georgia for the last couple of days. I also want to recognize my USDA colleagues here. If all the USDA colleagues in the room could just stand briefly and give a wave to the crowd. We've got a number of folks here and there. There are some in the back of the room, some over here. Colleagues from NRCS, thank you. As many of you know, we really try and offer as much as we can to small farmers all over the nation. We do that through a number of different agencies, whether it's the folks at the Conservation Service or the Risk Management Agency or Rural Development, My Home Agency, the Farm Service Agency, Ag Research Service, the Economic Research Service, AMS, all sorts of different USDA opportunities are out there, and I'm glad to see us so well represented today. I also bring greetings from Secretary Vilsack and the entire leadership team of the department. As many of you know, our Deputy Secretary Krista Harden is a daughter of South Georgia. She's from Camilla, and she'll be leaving us at the end of the month to go on and pursue other opportunities, but Krista has also been a great friend and supporter for small farmers all over the nation. I think most of you are quite familiar with FSA and what we do, but for the newcomers in the audience, let me give you a quick lesson. The Farm Service Agency serves America's farmers and ranchers through a network of nearly 2,200 county offices in almost every rural county in the country. And my agency's footprint throughout the countryside is unlike nearly every other federal agency, except maybe the post office. And I think that at a time when a lot of Americans feel somewhat disconnected from their federal government, FSA is one of those constant links, along with our sister agencies, that help work to reconnect people by providing localized, across-the-counter, in-person service to farmers and ranchers who in turn provide our great nation with food, fuel, and fiber. In fact, I like to view FSA as the gateway for farmers and ranchers across America, and I want to talk a little bit about that this afternoon. In our industry, as I think you know, opportunity is often created out of overcoming challenges. And as we all know, farmers and ranchers have a proven track record of harnessing ingenuity, know-how, and determination, not just to survive, but truly to thrive in an ever-changing environment. And one of the key themes this year at USDA, the final year of the Obama administration, is how we've been working each and every day to create transformational change so that rural communities become stronger than they've ever been, and so that we're able to continue on the path forward in a progressive fashion. And as the administration enters its final months, I'm reminded of the President's own words that we're entering the fourth quarter, and really important things happen in the fourth quarter. Over the past 7 years, my friends, we've witnessed this President, his Secretary of Agriculture, and the entire leadership team at USDA commit themselves to righting the wrongs of the past and beginning to turn the page on civil rights of the department. It's an effort that was long overdue, and it's an effort that's not yet complete. But it is an effort that I think is beginning to show some positive results. And when I hear that there are other agencies around the department now asking the Farm Service Agency for advice on improving services and outreach to long neglected or historically underserved customers, it makes me proud to think that the page is indeed finally beginning to turn. When one reflects on transformational change, it can be tremendously frustrating when that change is measured in decades or even centuries. But it's profoundly moving to think that just 10 years ago, what seemed far out of reach, the election of an African-American president, actually became reality in this nation. And under his leadership, and the hard work of many, we began to tackle our own troubled civil rights legacy at the department and to dismantle a record of discrimination and other abuses by building new relationships with customers like yourselves, with organizations like the Federation, and with folks that had long deserved better treatment. And if you've ever visited Washington, D.C., and I know that many of you have, across the mall from the U.S. Department of Agriculture is the National Archives, home to our founding documents, where a statue stands guard outside engraved with the important phrase that eternal vigilance is the price of our liberty. And what that means to me is that no matter how much our society achieves in any generation, there is no end to our work. That the price of maintaining equal justice for all is keeping a watchful eye at all times. And that's where you come in. And it's why all of you are so important to our work at USDA in these final months of the Obama administration and beyond. Because this country will not be successful in revitalizing and restoring the health of our rural economy if it does not invest, listen, and believe in farmers like you. And that success won't be achieved with mere lip service. It will only happen when we open our doors wider, when we add more chairs to the table, and when we reach deeper into every rural community here in South Georgia and elsewhere in our nation, to bring new voices, new faces, new ideas, and new energy into the work of our department. Success only occurs when we act on our promises to build relationships and partnerships, much like we at FSA have done with the Federation, when we unite our distinct and unique attributes together in the rural spirit of community. And while I believe we're on the right track, only the eternal vigilance of that watchful eye will help maintain a positive path forward. So let me share with you some of the successes that we've seen recently. Over the last 7 years, we've been working to open our doors wider for some rural Americans who in the past were overlooked or underserved. We've been working hard to restore their faith in their department, the People's Department, so that when they come back to access the services that they rightly need and are entitled to access, they'll be met with welcome arms. We start with the philosophy that the strength of American farmers and ranchers comes from the great diversity of this country. Black, white, Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay, straight, northern, southern, organic, and conventional. Out of this diversity, the great mosaic of American agriculture truly feeds the nation and the world. And it's from that premise that we're remedying past mistakes and discrimination in USDA programs, so that we've seen our civil rights complaints fall to the lowest level that they've been in years. And many of our long neglected customers are taking another look at what we're trying to accomplish at FSA and coming back. But it's not just enough to open doors, sit back in our chairs and wait for folks to come in. We've got to do a better job of reaching deeper into the towns and villages and rural hamlets of our country to let more folks know that the doors are open and that those services aren't available simply for long-time or existing customers, but that in many cases these services and programs and new tools are available and designed for new and beginning farmers. At FSA, we're achieving this through our program education and stakeholder division led by a woman named Latrice Hill. Latrice came up from Mississippi in our county offices and now works with me in Washington, D.C. She worked with the Federation's offices and the Association of Cooperatives in Mississippi, and she has brought her passion to Washington and is building a team with me that assists our states and counties to conduct better outreach to educate farmers, ranchers, and organizations of the many programs available. Another way that we're reaching out is through our Strike Force initiative, which began in 2010. Georgia was a pilot state for the Strike Force. And Strike Force works to improve access to programs, services, and a variety of forms of technical assistance that help counties that have had levels of persistent poverty. That's 20% poverty or higher. The vast majority of those counties, of course, are in rural America. And since 2010, Strike Force has partnered with more than 1,500 organizations, businesses, foundations, groups like the Federation, universities, and other groups to support almost 200,000 projects around the nation in more than 1,000 rural counties, parishes, and boroughs. Here in Georgia alone, we've invested over $300 million, and that's had a significant impact for rural counties. It's helped to save or create almost 6,000 jobs. It's assisted nearly 15,000 farmers and landowners to preserve natural resources. And it's provided more than 75 million summer meals to kids in strike force states all over the country. At FSA, just last year, we helped nearly 10,000 farmers with farm loan assistance. Almost 3/4 of those were traditionally underserved or new farmers. And in fact, our new microloan program alone has loaned about $140 million in strike force areas since 2013, with fully 85% of those loan dollars going to underserved and beginning farmers. So we've got some programs, we've got a better philosophy, we've opened our doors, we've targeted our outreach, but we also have to make sure that we've adjusted our programs and services and tools so that they're better designed and tailored to recognize the geographic, social, and financial diversity of this nation. We know, for example, that one of the biggest challenges to farming these days is cost of entry into the marketplace. But if you're a new farmer or a returning veteran or a minority producer, there should be no cost of entry or fence too high. And that's why we're working at FSA to provide better access to credit and investment capital to any customer who wants to strengthen their operations, even if you've been turned down by commercial lenders. Since 2009, since the beginning of this administration, we've made a record amount of farm loans, about 170,000 around the nation, increasing our lending to traditionally underserved borrowers by almost 50%. And as I mentioned earlier, we announced the first microloan program in 2013. We've made about 17,000 of these small-scale loans since that time. 70% have gone to new farmers, and almost 50% to customers that had never been in an FSA office before. We've also expanded loan eligibility requirements so that in addition to farming experience, other types of skills may be considered, like non-farm business experience, or military leadership, or an advanced education. Finally, we've improved our low-cost crop insurance for farmers that don't have access to commercial crop insurance for specialty fruits and vegetables. For underserved farmers, there's a deep discount for this insurance product, and we'll automatically offer free crop insurance to many by visiting our offices. We want to make sure that the depth and breadth of USDA's safety net, which, my friends, for years has helped the traditional, mature production agriculture operations in the Midwest so well, we want to make sure that that safety net is available to every farmer in the United States, not just those who grow major commodities. But our work isn't done when that loan is approved or when the FSA contract is signed. Our responsibilities can and should continue when you exit the office. So we're building bridges between ourselves at USDA and other resources outside of the department to expand on mentoring opportunities, farm planning knowledge, and building better business networks for you. We've been training our staff, and we hired a young fellow down here in South Georgia named Rodney Brooks, who's going to work on outreach targeted specifically to new and beginning farmers. And we're going to try and replicate positions like that in other parts of the South and in other parts of the country, so that folks have better access to the many good programs that FSA has to offer. We've been training our staff more broadly to have specialized knowledge that helps farmers with local and regional specialty crop issues, that helps returning veterans, underserved producers, and others. Bridges to Opportunity, as I call it, will help connect farmers with local cooperative extension agents and others to build financial literacy and improve record-keeping skills and marketing for specialty crops. It will even help to aggregate smaller fruit and vegetable farmers into larger food hubs and make introductions to institutional purchasers like Walmart, who will then buy these locally grown foods. We're working finally to institutionalize these changes so that whatever trees we plant in this administration to create the kind of change that USDA has needed for years won't be chopped down in the future, but rather will continue to grow for decades to come. We began this in 2013 when Secretary Vilsack began making appointments of traditionally underserved farmers to become voting members for FSA county committees. And in fact, the greatest impact we've seen were in the 50 county committees in the Southeast and Southwest, enabling African Americans to increase their participation from about 12% in 2014 to almost 20% last year, and we're working to continue to build on those increases in the final year. These improvements, I think, will increase minority share of committee voting members to ensure that there's a represented voice to an additional 10,000 minority farmers around the nation who historically have not had a voice on these important committees. And that, my friends, I think is real change. So the central theme of my remarks today is this: that the agricultural economy in our great nation cannot succeed without a spirit of community and cooperation. We know firsthand that the values of rural America have their very roots in the spirit of community, like an old-fashioned barn raising where distant neighbors would come together to one location to help an individual build that all-important structure for his operation. And that spirit of community is right here in this room today. We've got men and women, young and old, with rich family histories of farming, operating farms of many types and sizes. You are the managers and innovators and leaders of your communities. You are practical and hardworking, and you recognize that farming is a complex and demanding business. You bring to agriculture its past, its present, and its future. So if there's one thing that I want to leave you with, it's this: that FSA, under my leadership, will continue its commitment to provide prompt and courteous service by a knowledgeable and well-trained staff. That FSA is fully committed to fully inform and educate every potential customer on every aspect of our programs. That FSA is committed to responding to you in a timely manner to your request and questions with answers that will provide you with the most up-to-date information. That FSA will respect all differences, and that FSA will provide you with top-notch customer service that will encourage your return. And that is my pledge to you as the administrator of the Farm Service Agency. I like to say at FSA that we're in the American dream business. That every time we make a disaster payment or a conservation grant or a microloan, we're strengthening someone's dreams of brighter days for their farms, their family, and their future. But we can't and we don't do it alone. We do it with partners like you and the Federation of Southern Cooperatives and millions of farmers and ranchers from Maine to Georgia to California. Our work, my friends, at the department is not finished, and neither is this nation's. It will continue as long as those who work the land under the scorching sun and winter winds are committed to the food and agriculture policies that keep this nation prosperous and help ensure a safe, reliable, and affordable food supply for all Americans and millions of others around the globe. I thank you very much. I look forward to any questions or comments that you may have, and to a continued deep and productive and mutually beneficial relationship with the Federation and like-minded organizations around the country. Thank you.